No more ccpdeals.com. That's the name and site of our petition, where over 7,000 concerned Canadians signed it to demand that BC Ferries and both British Columbian and federal government halt their plans to hand a billion-dollar shipbuilding contract over to communist China. I'm Drea Humphrey with Rebel News, and while we've been told it's too late and our hands were tied, I'm here at the BC Transport Minister, Mike Farnworth's Port Coquitlam constituency office to hand deliver this petition to make sure your voices are heard. Voices that say loud and clear, we're watching. We see the betrayal to Canadian workers when our economy is hurting and we needed this the most. So don't sell us out to China again. Let's try this again. Well. Surprise, surprise, surprise. No one is actually working inside of Farnworth's office, even though the office claims it would be open today until 3 o'clock. You should know that this is actually the second time I've attempted to come here and drop this petition off, but I guess Farnworth's tax-paid-for constituency office isn't actually open for the constituents that much. I will eventually deliver this to him or his office and also make sure that the head of BC Ferries, the Federal Transport Minister, Drea Freeland, and David Eby's office gets their own copy too. But before I sign off on this report, let me bring you up to speed with where we are at with this ferry deal and why the EB NDP's claims to have had their hands tied and Freeland's so-called condemnations of the deal are not entirely true. This closed door is actually symbolic of Farnworth's political avoidance when it came to misleading Canadians into thinking he couldn't do more when he stated that BC Ferries is an independent company responsible for its own operational decisions. The truth is, however, that the province of British Columbia, through the BC Ferry Authority, has a lot of power and influence as the sole shareholder of BC Ferries. Mike Farnworth, as Minister of Transportation, represents that shareholder interest. He could have issued directives. He could have set expectations that Canadian-built infrastructure should be the default for billion-dollar taxpayer-funded projects, but he didn't. He let it happen and tried to wash his hands of the outcome. And on the surface, and of course in state media news, it appeared as though Drea Freeland did much better than Farnworth. After claiming to have been dismayed to learn that the Chinese state-owned shipyard would be awarded the BC Ferries contract, she issued a damning letter on June 16th to the BC government and requested assurances that no federal funds would be diverted to make the deal happen. Yet after all of that righteous liberal anger of Freeland's was published, she failed to take concrete steps to try and stop the Canada Infrastructure Bank from handing over a $1 billion low-interest loan to help BC Ferries finance the cost for Communist China to build our ships. In other words, she's I'll pull out all of the stops to freeze the bank accounts of peaceful truckers and protesters who oppose medical tyranny, but I'm all smoke and mirrors when it comes to this issue. Let's be clear. This was a nation-building opportunity. If built here, it could have supported hundreds, maybe thousands of jobs, pumped money into local economies, upheld a precedent for ethical labor, kept us safer on a nation scale when it comes to our security, and it would have strengthened our shipbuilding capacity, maybe for generations. Instead, we're handing over all of that to a foreign dictatorship linked to slave labor, money laundering, fentanyl trafficking, and interference within our own elections. That's why our petition wasn't called Stop the CCP Deal. It was called No More CCP Deals, because this can and will happen again if we don't use our voice to hold them accountable. Drea Humphrey, with Rebel News. This petition may be closed for now, but if you appreciate the important work that Rebel News does to expose China First deals, go to our special website called noccpdeals.com and donate what you can to keep our reports going strong.